Hey guys, Rex here. We're taking a look at a few different magazine options commonly available for the VEPR-12 series Kalashnikov pattern shotguns. This is a 12 gauge Kalashnikov pattern shotgun, folding stock. This is a SBS, so it's kind of short, unmodified from the factory. And it comes with the factory VEPR magazine, which we'll look at. This is the Pufgun magazine, made in Russia also. And this is the SGM Tactical magazine. And I also got one of the SGM drums as well. I'm going to look at some critical points of failure that are common in magazines like this that I've observed in other Kalashnikov pattern shotguns. And then of course, after a while, when we get more time in on these things, we will be able to do a comparative analysis of their performance. So let's start by looking at the locking mechanisms, okay? Now on the back, on this type of deal, basically we have on the VEPR, different than the Sega 12, we have a little bit of a magwell deal here. We do have a paddle switch, and they kind of insert straight in. So with one hand it's going to be a little tricky, but you push it in, it snaps into place, and it's good. Now you take this and release like so, and basically up front you have a very subtle lip up front. Very, very subtle. I don't know if you guys can see that. I use a white table so you can kind of see. Very, very tiny. This is the factory mag here. In the back you have the lock up here. This is all polymer on this one. And then you have the follower. And on the factory VEPR mag, they come with one of these. I think this is an 8 or a 10 rounder. I forget. I think it's maybe 8. I don't remember. And then they come with a smaller one for like hunting or something. But like we have some feed lips. These appear to be a steel feed lip design, which appears very similar to the AGP Generation 2s that I ran for years on my Sega 12s. And just by glance at it, looks like the design is very similar. Nicely put together. The construction is pretty thick here. I don't know if you can see. It's solid. It's not stupid heavy. Here's the bottom plate here. It's rigid. It's not really flex to it. I'm trying to get any flex out of it. So it's very rigid. Nice smooth path for the follower to move down. And these are quite expensive if you try to buy these by themselves compared to some of the other options. But that's the factory mag. Let's take a look at the SGM Tactical. Okay. Again, the very front lip, very subtle. We're looking at this right here, where it's going to connect in the front, because it's got to connect in the front and the back, right? You can see just a subtle lip there. Compared to this, sorry, I need a cameraman. So it's a little more beefy on the factory VEPR mag than it is here, and the contours are different as well. This one has more width to it. This one starts to ramp up like this one does, which seems to be the point where it catches. But it's not near as beefy as the factory on the front side. The followers appear very similar at a glance. The SGM does not have the metal feed lips, rather kind of a plastic polymer feed lips, which appear to be relatively stout. Followers actually smooth. Some of these, I mean, there's a lot of different mags I mess with. Some of them you can tell just from the feel. It's hard to hear by listening, but feels like the spring tension is consistent and smooth there. Now let's look at the back lockup comparative to this. So on the factory, relatively similar. The angle's different here. On the factory one, it's more of a perpendicular angle or a right angle here to the rest of the mag body. This one's a little tapered, and I wonder, I'm sure there's a design reason for that. Maybe it is more universal with different fits on different shotguns, because sometimes the Kalashnikov pattern actions do vary a little bit. Overall, it's not pretty. I mean, this one looks cool, right? Because we got the ribs on there. This one has got much larger ribs, but there's only 3 of them, where this one has a bunch of them. This would maybe be more of a potential snag up point, ripping them out of your chest rig or whatever, carrying deal. But it's rigid. I mean, it's built solid again. I don't know if you can see that. There it is right there. Made in the USA, right? But these are built solid. There's not really flex to these either. The floor plate is just kind of a big ugly beast here. But that'll work. And the price is a lot better than on these. I've run this same mag out of Sega 12s, and it actually, on the Sega 12s with low brass, now these shotguns are not designed for low brass. They're designed for heavy loads, buckshot, like duty loads is what they're designed for. But on my Sega 12, I was able to shoot low brass out of it after it broke in. And I would know that this would be the first mag out of all the ones I was checking that would start to produce problems. I think it was the spring pressure was a bit heavy, and so that top shot shell riding on the bottom of the bolt carrier here, when it pulls it back and tries to strip one off the top, the resistance of scraping across the top of that spring tension here, with that shot shell in here, and then going back in, was like just enough to cause some hang-ups. And sometimes it was failure to eject all the way, like the bolt wouldn't come all the way back, because I think that the spring pressure on here was the issue. It could have been another dimension where it wasn't totally lined up. All I know is that these didn't work as good as the AGP Gen 2s, which are similarly patterned after this. And let's look at the Pufgun. Now, these come in a variety of colors. This one I got in transparent because it's kind of different. These are the cheapest by far of the different options I've found. They are actually made in Russia, which I like because that means they probably are catering to that market and they're specialized in this kind of weapon. But let's take a look. So we do have, like the factory mag, we do have some sort of metal. Doesn't look like steel. Maybe it is, I don't know. Feed lips. Well, maybe, hold on. Oh, looking at them. No, they're about the same. Maybe it's the finish on this appears a little different. Maybe it's the fit. Because this is countersunk in the factory, so it's smooth here. This one is sitting on the outside. See the plastic thickness? We'll look at that compared to the factory. Okay, and we'll put this one up here while we're at it. So the thickness here is pretty thick on the Pufgun on this dimension. This is the factory mag. You guys can see that. And then the AGP, or excuse me, the SGM. It's actually the thinnest. Follower again looks pretty much the same. Let's look at the dimensions here on thickness on all these. So we have some thickness here, which appears to be very similar to the factory. Very similar thickness on the Pufgun for the body of the mag. The feed lips. Actually, that could be an optical illusion because it's bright. But it appears to be very similar, or maybe even a little more thick actually, on this Pufgun mag for the metal feed lips. Okay. The dimension here for the back lockup, look at that. Okay. So we'll do a sideways comparison. You can see the angle is similar on the Pufgun to this this one here. So here is the SGM. There's the profile. Here's the Pufgun, very similar. And then here's the factory, which is a bit more robust and a slightly different angle on the factory. And then in the front, we have this. Again, the factory is the most robust on the front. The Pufgun seems to be the second more robust. And then the SGM is kind of a different angle on it. This one is a bit, yeah, it's a little more, there's a little more meat to it there. And this one is quite a bit thicker. Time will tell, of course. This is just looking at it from the outside. I know from experience that sometimes stuff that looks like it's built way stronger doesn't perform as well when everything adds up in the system. So we will take these out, and it'll take me a little while to get enough rounds through them to develop an opinion with enough data points in enough conditions to know for sure which ones are working better. But yeah, we will keep you guys posted on that. You can check the fit on these different ones as well. Okay, so we're going to try inserting factory VEPR-12 mag. You put it straight in. The paddle's trying to index, find that spot, so you just kind of wiggle it back and forth. Snaps in. Comes right out. Grab it. You got to get a little leverage. There you go. Pop it, and it just pops out. Or you can put it in and then drop it. Okay, so here's the Pufgun mag. This one goes in straight and actually locks in pretty easily. Almost as easily as the factory mag. We got solid lockup. Goes straight in relatively easily, and it looks like the dimensions are correct. This is the SGM. Okay, go in there. We have this one is way more angry. I got to give it a pretty good tap on the bottom right here. So you got to kind of, and then it goes in. Now it's a solid lockup once it's in, but it's definitely not going to go in just by pushing it in. Now, standard operating procedure for most of your different platforms is going to be to, you know, tap it in on the bottom anyways. It seems like the fit and finish on the Pufgun is actually really good. And then on the factory, which I'm using as the model, goes right in for the most part. So here's the factory VEPR. Goes right in. Pufgun. Goes right in. Okay. And then the SGM. Gotta push a bit harder and wiggle it to get it to index in. The drum has a false loose round up here, which just falls out. It's not really attached. Just kind of goofy. I don't know if that's kind of a one-time deal. That locks in pretty decent as well once it's in. The fit and finish on this locking up is a lot better than the stick mag actually. Locks right in. It seems to be about the right fit. And it's best to do it when you're actually using it out in the field, because the fit is kind of irrelevant without ammunition in it and without using it, because those things have to line up appropriately for everything to feed and function. But at a glance, there's those. Here is the SGM drum. here's the SGM regular stick mag. So as you can see, the drum, this has a clear back to it. It has kind of a typical drum style follower with a bunch of plastic shotgun shell shaped deals that feed down into here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Just reflecting here. But it looks like the lockup on here, again, is pretty similar to this one. See a little more pronounced lockup on this one. The drum seems to, they had to maybe had a better mold there. This one actually doesn't even look, on the stick mag from SGM, doesn't look like it's symmetrical on both sides. Looks a little different. The back lockup does look a little more aggressive on the drum. I don't know if that was interesting for you guys. Again, we will verify when we start shooting these a bit more. I'm going to break it in probably with low brass. It probably will not function right away like you would expect it to. These are designed for heavy loads again. This does have an automatic or an auto regulating gas system, so you can change loads in here. You don't have to dial anything in. It's supposed to be auto regulating. So we'll see how well that works when we switch back from heavy loads to real light ones. And we'll see how these different mags perform once we get enough data points. All right? You guys have a good one. Take her easy.